welcome to the Recovery Daily Podcast. I'm your host, Rachel Miller. I'm a stroke survivor and grateful recovering alcoholic. And first off, sorry about the audio yesterday. I don't know what the heck was going on, but hopefully today we won't have that problem anymore. I tried everything to figure out what was the problem, but it seems to be fine today. Anywho, technology, we can't live with it. We can't live without it. Am I right? Okay. The topic today is make self-discipline easy. So this morning we were talking about meditation in my meeting this morning as it applies to self-discipline. And I wanted to expand on that a bit because I've been talking a lot about these things that I do that I make a habit in my life. And these are the things that keep me mentally healthy, keep me sober. To an extent, there are things that I think, well, I did this yesterday and I stayed sober, so I'm going to do it again today, So to an extent, I like to do the same thing every day. Of course, I like to do things that are new and exciting, but some of these like foundational things I do every day. And I talk a lot about those. I've talked about adding things like yoga, like morning prayer. These are some of the things that I talked about over the past couple weeks. And I wanted to talk about a little more about how I add these types of habits and how I think about self-discipline and how I try to make it easier for myself. I try to not beat myself up when I set a goal, but I end up getting 80% of that goal or something like that, and what my perspective of it is. So, but I did want to start with meditation, a little bit about meditation, because that was what my meeting, I think that's what I heard. I don't know what the meeting was about, but this is what Rachel heard in the meeting. So we were talking about how step 11 in my sobriety program is about prayer and meditation. And I really had zero practice in prayer and meditation before I got sober. So starting to have these types of habits in my life was very difficult. I kept having to be reminded by my sponsor, like, this is an option, if you're not doing well or you're upset about something, it is an option to pray or to meditate. And honestly, in the beginning, I was like, what's it going to do? It's not like, I don't even know if I believe in any kind of God, or I don't know who my higher power is or anything like that. But she kept saying that this was something that helps. So, desperate times call for desperate measures. And there were times that I felt a little desperate. So I went ahead and acted as if. And I talk a lot about that. And that has been really a huge deal for me in my life. This acting as if thing has been just the answer to all of my questions about, does this exist? Does that exist? In the beginning, it was like I was given permission to not have to know the answer to that, or even have to give a shit about the answer to that. All I had to do is act like I believed it, and just go through the motions. And that was huge for me, to just pretend like a person who believes, which might sound weird to people who have believed their whole life. But for me, it was important for me to just play the role. Like, what does somebody look like who does this does this prayer and meditation regularly? Well, I always think about the guy that I've talked about in a previous podcast episode who sat in the gas station restaurant and meditated very awkwardly right in the center of the restaurant. Um, and it doesn't have to look like that. Somebody who does this regularly. It can look like me. But what should my environment look like? Somebody who prays and meditates regularly. And then expanding that to somebody who does yoga regularly. What should my environment look like? Um, so I'm going to talk a little bit about that. So step 11 is I've heard in the program that meditation is listening. And along the same lines in the beginning, I'm like, well, if I don't know who my higher power is, or I'm not quite sure what my understanding of a God is, if I do believe in a God, I don't know who I'm listening to. I don't know what I'm listening to, right? So I'm just listening. I'm just listening. And in the beginning, I was listening to the hamster that was running around on the wheel in my head. That's what I was listening to. I was sitting in our Friday meditation meeting, and I could hear the traffic outside and the horns and the sirens and in the middle of all of that, I hear Rachel, you know, talking to herself about what happened that day at work. Our meditation meeting was at 5:30 after work, and I would drive like halfway home to this meditation meeting. I'd sit in there and I'd like marinate on all of the craziness that happened at work that day. Meanwhile, I hear these noises of traffic and everything in the background because we were like right in the middle of Leesburg. And I'm not sure that I was finding any sort of serenity, but the thing is that I was seeking it. I was giving myself a chance. And I remember as I think back, I remember those moments where I would think to myself, okay, bring yourself back to the room. Bring yourself back to the room that you're in. And that little gesture of recognizing that my body was in the room, but my mind was all over the place. My mind was still at work. My mind was outside in the traffic. Getting to the point where I could recognize that and bring myself back to where my body was, bring my mind back to where my body was, is success. So we may not do it perfectly. We're definitely not going to do it perfectly. I'm still not perfect at it. I don't know that I ever will be. But the more I do it, the more I'm able to recognize whether my mind is in the same place that my body is. And that, for me, that is being present. And then getting to the point where I'm listening to that. That's what I'm listening to. I'm listening to, yeah, I don't know. It's like everything, I'm listening to the world around me, whether it's chaotic or it's silent. And when it's silent, there's something else that shows up. I don't know what it is, but there's something else that shows up when I can get quiet. And this allows me to take ownership of my feelings and take action on them rather than sitting back and being a victim of them. I'm able to start almost feeling like those feelings are tangible, and I can put them where I want them to be at any given moment. If I want them to go in the God box, I put them in the God box. If I want to pick one out of the God box and think about it, then I'm choosing to do that. But it took me years of practice of recognizing that my mind was out of control. My mind was something that was just drifting around, and I felt like there was nothing I could do about that. But it just started with that one simple, okay, mind, come back to right where you are. Come back to right here, right now. And then I would, be right here, right now for a hot second, and then my mind would start worrying about something else again. And then a few minutes later, I'm like, oh, you did it again. You sneaky little bastard. Come back to where I am right here, right now, again. So that was what meditation looked like for me. That's what that self-discipline looked like for me. And I just started doing it on Fridays at 5:30. That was it. That was all I did, Friday at 5:30. And over time, the more I did it, the more I started recognizing that I could do this, that I could control whether my mind was drifting around or it was right here, right now. The more I wanted to do it, because it started feeling good. It started feeling a little healthy. I'm like, wait a minute. I actually feel at peace. Like I can choose to be at peace here, right now for a second. And so I would go into the bathroom at work, and it's a great place to do a little 60-second meditation on the toilet. It really is. I'm telling you. It's quiet in there. Nobody will bother you. And I would just like take a deep breath and just close my eyes and just sit there for like 60 seconds. And so I started inviting that exercise in whenever I would find myself. It's like I started noticing when I was in a peaceful place, when my environment was conducive to pausing and taking a breath and having the opportunity to feel good. So this step 11 is a self-discovery step. It's where we are just expected to explore these ideas and explore. It's our playground. Spirituality, it's our playground. We can do whatever we want with it. And we can act as if. We can try different things out. Like there's no right way or wrong way to pray and meditate. And I always thought that the only way that I was allowed to pray is the way that my sister prays. And that's just not true. I can pray however I want to. Now, I, what I was thinking of is in some of my meetings, I have some people that come in and they say, my God's name is Dude, or my God is a she. And, another person says, my God is good orderly direction. So everybody has their own conception of God, in my program. And I love that because I can't be wrong. I can't be, my conception of God can't be wrong now because everybody else has their own one. and we, are not permitted to judge each other or anything like that. So step 11 is really kind of a relaxed, enjoyable step. If you can think, you can meditate. One thing that I did also in meditation was, now I don't know if this is good or bad, but this is just the truth. This is what I did. Now, one of the very last times that I drank, in fact, it was the time when, if you are an avid listener, it's the time that I was going back to work after my friend died on the fourth day. I was going up the mountain and I stopped at the gas station, got wine, and turned back around, stopped into a neighborhood and started drinking. Well, when I stopped the car and I opened the wine and I took one drink of the wine, a big, gigantic guzzle, there was this feeling, there was a chemical that was released when I took that drink. I could feel it. Almost like if you've ever eaten a piece of pecan pie and there's so much sugar in it, you can actually feel the sugar racing through your veins, or if you had a big box of Nerds or something, you can feel the sugar go through. It was like that. Like I could feel something, some sort of chemical was released. And it was just this like overwhelming feeling of, like, yes, I've got it. That's what this alcoholic felt when she would get wine. And that feeling, those chemicals, I could feel it in my head. Like I could feel my brain kind of almost have a cloak just fall over it so that all my thinking just stopped. Like somebody just threw a sheet over top of my head and blocked the world out. That's what it felt like. And so when I am struggling to meditate, I think about that feeling of having a sheet thrown over my head to block the world out, and that it just shuts down. My thinking stops. So I don't know if that makes any sense, but it makes sense to me, and that's all that matters. So I thought I'd share it. So, okay. Moving on to a little more about self-discipline. So my self-discipline has really started with my sobriety program with prayer and meditation. But what prayer and meditation has gotten me to do is to start looking at life from a different perspective. Looking at life almost like I have the ability now to back up and look at the whole picture a little more than I ever used to before. I used to only be able to look at the moment that I was in, like what decisions am I making right this second for what's going to make me happy right this second. And I couldn't see past this second. It's not, I was living in the past. I was scared of the future, but yet I was only making decisions based on the moment that I was in, not fast forwarding the tape to see how will this impact anything in my life. I talked recently about how our decisions are, thinking about how our decisions are going to impact, Rachel 3.0. And I never was able to do that. And so I can do that a little more now. I'm not great at it, but I feel more like I'm able to not question what's going on in my life as much. Believing in the path that I'm on a little more than I used to. I don't say as much as I used to, why me? Why is this happening to me? I don't have to understand why things are happening anymore. Because it doesn't matter why things are happening. And things aren't happening to me. Life is happening. That's all that's happening. Life is happening. And I have to figure out how to navigate it. And it's fascinating how whatever is happening, let's say I can sit right here on this couch in silence. And depending on what I choose to think about, I can either be laughing, I can either cry, I can either be angry, I can be hopeful, I can be anxious. You get my point. Nothing's happening with my body or my environment at all. Nothing has changed. But what I'm doing inside my head is the only thing that's changing, and that's all a choice. I'm just deciding what things I want to think about. And our minds are so powerful that we're able to live in joy or fear or anger, and our environment doesn't change at all. It's like I relate it to how people say you are what you eat. And we have to choose the food that we put in our body to be healthy, to what's good for our heart and our, all of these things. What's a good recovery food after you've been running, and make sure you have enough water and don't eat too much carbs and all of these things. So we're really conscientious about what food we put in our bodies. Well, I believe that we need to be just as conscious about what thoughts we put in our minds. And I believe very strongly, that we get to choose those just as much as we choose what food we eat. We choose what thoughts we think and what feelings those are going to lead to. And stress on our bodies comes in all shapes. Like stress on our bodies can come from eating the wrong food, can come from moving the wrong way, can come from lack of movement, can come from lack of hygiene. Stress can come from our environment, the people we're around. Stress can come from not having enough sleep. And I believe that stress can come from choosing the wrong thoughts. Now, I know firsthand that some of us need medication in order to manage our thoughts better. Because we have anxiety, depression, all of these mental health issues. I know that firsthand. So if I didn't have my medication, I don't have as much of a choice what's going on in my head, because I have a chemical imbalance that leads me to go down a really, really scary road if I don't have medication. So I wanted to provide some suggestions for making self-discipline a little easier in your life. And so the one of them is to treat yourself as you would your child, or treat yourself as you were when you were a child. Self-discipline is really an incredible way of loving yourself, of taking care of yourself, acknowledging what it is you need to do to eliminate stress and take care of your body. And that self-discipline can look like prayer and meditation. It can look like eating healthy. It can look like yoga. All of these things. Self-discipline is all the things that you choose to repeatedly do for yourself that keep you healthy. And I find the best way of doing that, making that kind of thing more of a habit, is to look at myself as if I am somebody that I care about very deeply and I want to nurture. So that's the first one. The second one is, for me, self-discipline, like I said, is something that I started really embracing as a sober Rachel 2.0. And I'm trying to carry that over to stroke survivor Rachel 3.0. And it seems like there's a heck of a lot more self-discipline that I need to embrace. For me, self-discipline is really difficult. And let me talk about that. So, self-discipline for sober Rachel 2.0 is doing all these things, prayer and meditation. Also, hygiene was something that I had to get back on board with, which may sound awful to people who are not alcoholics, have not reached a low, but it's something that happens with active alcoholics quite often. So these are the types of just everyday things that I needed to start incorporating as a normal person again. But also self-discipline now, self-discipline as an alcoholic in recovery is going out to restaurants and not drinking. But more than that, going out to restaurants and not obsessing about looking at somebody who is drinking. Going to the grocery store and not walking down the beer aisle. I did that for like the first, year. I wouldn't go down that aisle because I was afraid. I was afraid I was going to like it. I was afraid I was going to reach over and pick something up off the shelf. That's the kind of self-discipline that I had. That's the self-discipline that I needed at that time. Now today, my self-discipline looks like I can't look at the TV. Even tonight, we were listening to the news and I faced the other direction from the TV and I just listened to it. And I was reaching over to, get a tissue, and I was peeking up at the TV. And my boyfriend was like, "Stop looking at the TV." And I was like, "Oh, sorry." So that's what self-discipline looks like for me now. Like, it's ridiculous. I have to close my eyes in the car. I have to not watch TV. I have to, there's a lot of like shutting my eyes and controlling. Even when I'm doing this podcast, there are times that I have to shut my eyes because I never realized how much my eyes move around when I'm talking. looking around the room. So again, self-discipline. So self-discipline might look very different for you. It really is unique to all of us, what it is that we have to do to take care of ourselves. Um, 3, setting up our environment for to be conducive to self-discipline. For me, in order to have better self-discipline, to make self-discipline easier on me, I have to keep my house very clean, very orderly, and have these things that I need to do very accessible. For example, I need to wear my sunglasses whenever I go outside because the light agitates my head. So I have my sunglasses sitting by the door at all times. Um, I have to, let's see, I mentioned having to not look at the TV. So I have another spot on the couch where everything is all right near me. So I used to sit in a different spot on the couch. So I had to move everything so that I'm comfortable in this new place. Yoga is something that I've started doing. And so I have to make sure my yoga mat is accessible, easily accessible, because if I have to reach up to the top of my closet, I've talked about this before. If I have to reach up to the top of my closet to get my yoga mat, it is less likely that I'm going to do yoga. That's just what happens. Also, cleaning. I make my cleaning supplies very accessible. I make the vacuum very accessible. If I were to store the vacuum in the garage downstairs, I would vacuum less because it's just a pain in the ass to bring it upstairs. So, setting up your environment, for me, it's clean, orderly, and accessible. Next is playing the tape forward. What would happen if I did not do the thing that I need to be self-disciplined about? What would happen if I don't go to my meeting in the morning? I get up. Now, typically, I love to go to my meeting. I am really anticipating going to my meeting every morning. So I get up typically at 6:30 every morning, even on weekends and holidays. Um, but there are times that my pooch will allow me to sleep in ever so slightly. And I'll get up like 10 minutes after 7. So the meeting starts at 7. There was one time in the past, I don't know, months that have passed. One time recently that I woke up at 7:11 and I thought to myself, ugh, I'll just go to the 8 o'clock meeting because there's meetings all day long on Zoom. And then I thought, no, I'm not going to feel good the rest of the day if I missed this meeting. That's what I felt. So I rolled over even and put my earphones in and joined the meeting right away. What would happen if I didn't record my podcast? Today I actually forgot to record my podcast all day long until nighttime. And I've been uploading them a little earlier in the day lately. But I forgot. I don't know how. It's like the center of my life. I don't know how I forgot. I've been doing a couple other things. I made English muffins today. I made sourdough today, and I made this little craft I'm working on for Christmas that I can't say because some of you might receive it. But anyway, I guess I just got excited and I didn't do it. So what would happen if I woke up tomorrow and I didn't do my podcast because I was like, I don't feel like it. It's too late or something like that. I would feel terrible because I would look and see that I had every day so far since I think it's like June 16th or something like that. I'm not sure. And then I had skipped a day. I don't know. It would drive me crazy. So, and then yoga, like what happens if I don't do yoga? Well, I can tell you because the past 2 days I've been wanting and planning to do yoga and haven't done yoga. So why haven't I done yoga? That's because I've been busy doing other things that I enjoy. So it's it's and I'll talk about this in a minute. It's actually, yeah, I'll talk about this 2 steps from now. But it's about like, what do I have to lose? I don't have necessarily anything to lose by not doing yoga today, because what I'm going to end up doing is I'm going to do some push-ups before I go to bed. I know that's weird. I know I'm weird. But I still do something that feels good. I do it because my shoulders are so tight that I need to do some sort of, I need to warm them up in some way. But, um, you know, yeah, I wish I would have had time to do yoga today, but I did a lot of other things that made me feel happy. And I guess I wanted to do those a little more. So it's about not beating myself up, and I'll get to that in a second. So the next one is do the next right thing, take a step forward. I talk about this all the time. When you have something that you need to do, some self-discipline that you need to try to fit in, or something you don't feel like doing but you need to do it, just take one step. If I need to go brush my teeth, all I think about is the fact that, like, let's say I get in bed and I forget to brush my teeth. I don't know if anybody does that, but I've done it a couple times. Get in bed and I forget to brush my teeth. And I'm thinking, oh, I'm so cozy. It's so cold outside the bed. I don't want to get up and brush my teeth. Well, I don't allow myself to marinate in those thoughts for another second. I remove the covers and put my feet on the ground, because I know that that's the next right thing. It doesn't matter what I want to do. My wanter is turned off. What matters is that I clean my teeth. And if I don't clean my teeth, this is fast forwarding the tape. If I don't clean my teeth before I go to bed, I will not enjoy my mouth when I wake up in the morning. I'm just telling you that. It's disgusting. So that's what I do. I fast forward the tape. Okay, the last one, I think this last one, yeah, is find a comfortable level of sustainability and rest. So yoga is the best example I have for this. And that is that, I guess it's been a couple weeks now, I'm not sure, when I said that I was going to start my habit of yoga. And when I said this, I said, I'm going to do it every day. So most of the things that I decide I'm going to do, spoiler alert, I always say I'm going to do it every day. I don't know why, but that's Rachel. I always do that. And I think it's because when I think about doing something every day, I'm like, the best version of me will do this every day. And if I don't hit every day, well, then I know I'll still have done it more than I would do it if I set my goal to be, I'll do it every other day. You know what I mean? Like, I always set my, what do they say? If you reach for the moon, you might actually touch the stars, or something like that. That's kind of my mindset on everything. And so what I've ended up doing is I did start doing yoga every day. And without beating myself up or anything, I did my 1 hour power flow yoga. And then the next day, I didn't feel well. And so this is my priority above everything right now, is how I feel. And when I don't feel well, it's not that old feeling of I don't feel like it. Um, this is I don't feel well, like if I do yoga, I could actually, you know, mm, I don't know what's the word. I don't know what could happen, but I feel like I wouldn't be well. Like I would feel sicker, I would feel dizzy. I would feel like health wise, physically wise, I don't feel well enough to do yoga. So, what I did was on the second day, or one of the days that I didn't do power yoga, I did stretching yoga. And then I think I did power yoga again. And then another day I didn't feel well. So I ended up doing push ups and lifting weights with my arms. And then some days I don't do any of these things. And I just, my exercise is just taking my dog for a walk around the block. So I guess my point is that my, even when I have days that I don't do my yoga, I feel like what I'm doing is prioritizing my health. And that's the whole reason I'm doing yoga anyway. I'm doing it all for recovery. So if recovery is telling me you don't feel well enough to do yoga today, then I'm going to listen to that. Um, and if I were to try to keep doing yoga every day to the, power yoga every day like I used to before my stroke, um, I would end up being very sick. So it's not sustainable for me to try to push myself that far. And so this goes with everything. I've got several uh sewing sorry, I can't think of the word. Projects. That wasn't the word I was looking for, but several sewing projects like in the works right now. And because that's what I do, I'm piling up all these things that I want to do. And but I just am doing it when I can and just not putting a lot of pressure on myself. This is all new to me. I guess the reason why I'm talking about it is because it's all new to me to be gentle with myself. And that's what I'm dealing with right now in recovery. So that's what I got today about self-discipline and trying to make it easy. So just to recap, self-discipline is really about loving yourself and taking care of yourself, um, and setting up an environment that looks like what the person, like if you envision yourself being somebody who does yoga every day, then what would that person's environment look like? They would have a yoga mat easily accessible. They would have their yoga outfit, picked out or whatever, easily accessible. And play the tape forward. How are you going to feel if you don't do the thing that you are trying to be self-disciplined about? Do the next right thing. If you've got something that you know that you need to do, just stand up, take a step forward towards whatever that thing is, and your momentum is going to keep you going. And finally, find a comfortable level of sustainability. Don't beat yourself up. It's fine to say, I'm going to do this every day, and then you end up doing it twice a week. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. And that's the thing. I think we're so hard on ourselves. So that's what I have. Thanks for listening today. Again, I hope the audio rocks today, and I'll talk to you tomorrow.